Welcome to Just a Cup on Bleav. I am Coach Bryan Fetzer, and I have with me today Peyton St. George. This conversation is going to be a very organic conversation. Just a Cup is all about getting athletes and coaches, getting together, sharing their stories, talking a little bit. It's kind of like we're having a cup of coffee. Got my Shenandoah Joe's coffee mug from one of my favorite places in Charlottesville back in the day. Peyton is unbelievable. I mean, she's really a first. And I'll give you a little bit of introduction on this. She was in the first class of the first team at Duke University, became an All-American, had a great career. I got to read you some of these stats because they're kind of eye-popping. 66 wins, 25 losses, 2.14 ERA, led the team to the Super Regional. And if you know anything about softball, a pitcher is king. We were talking about data and content earlier. We'll get into that a little bit. But in softball, pitching is king. Now she plays in Athletes Unlimited, which is professional soccer or professional softball organization based in Rosemont, Illinois. If you're ever driving down the highway, you can literally see the facility off the side of the road. I've seen it many, many times. Man, Peyton, it's amazing to have you on. I see the smile. You're excited. I can feel the energy.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. And I know those stats seem pretty padded, but they're easy to do, and I got a good defense and lineup behind me. So not a one-man show out there. Definitely had a good team to back me in my day.
Well, I got to ask you this because this is such an interesting topic, and I've been fortunate or unfortunate to be a part of two programs that were started from scratch in the track and field world. So I know what it's like. What was that like for you? I mean, you're venturing out kind of in the unknown. You go to Duke. What was it like being on a team that was a first?
It definitely had its ups and downs, and I was actually player one of team one. So when I verbaled to the program, I verbaled to the coach. There was no field, there was no record, no culture, nothing. And so it was kind of one of those things where she said, you might not get to pick the fruit of the tree you plant, or you might not to get the shade of that. But, over the years, just hoping you lay the building blocks for girls to come after you. And it was kind of like, I'm okay coming here and maybe not being as successful. I'm getting a Duke degree. And it's just really cool because, as long as I live, no one can take away player one, team one from me.
No, that's a pretty, that's really starting it from scratch. I mean, legitimately. What was it like from a culture standpoint? I mean, you're literally getting to build it from the ground floor. You're the seed getting planted. So you guys got to develop that culture and then the success that you had in a very short period of time. Awesome.
Yeah, I like to say Coach was a babysitter her first 2 years because we had a lot of young talent come in, and we might not have been the most talented group when you compared us to the country. And there are a lot of softball programs out there. And so it's crazy how from day one, she wanted us to have 40 wins. That was our goal, which we might have thought was a little crazy, but she didn't think was crazy at all. And she definitely had to be a little more disciplined as we came in and were experiencing college for the first time. And not just college, Duke University, which comes with a lot of really aggressive academics, similar to UVA as it would. And so her rules when we got in there was, you're going to be 5 minutes early to every single class you have. You're not going to miss class. You're going to shake your professor's hand. They're going to know who you are because you're going to be sitting in the first two rows. And so from the get-go, we were kind of thinking, this coach she's pretty tight. And as I grew and matured throughout my career, those are the things that stayed through our culture. And those are the things that the freshmen came in and they knew, we don't skip class. We sit in the first few rows. And ultimately, when we did get to 40 wins, it was kind of like everyone saying, wow, Duke's really on the up and up. And we were just saying, like, this was the goal we had from day one. Like, we're not the underdog in our eyes. We're here to attack. And I think it's being at Duke University. It's really a culture that it's a very championship culture. You want to be Duke basketball. You want to be Duke lacrosse. You have a lot of teams to look up to. And it wasn't really like, hopefully one day we hope to get there. It was, that's the standard. So we have to get there as fast as we can if we want to be on par with the rest of Duke athletics. So luckily in my time, I was able to pick the fruit of the tree I planted because we were top 10 when I left that place. So it was kind of like seeing two sides to a coin. You get the really ugly side. We get the terrible twos. In our second year, we lose 30-something games, which no one likes to do. But on the other side of that, we're losing less than 12 games by the time I leave. So it was really cool to see both sides and kind of come out of two different worlds after leaving the program.
No, I mean, I can. You said a second year from a program standpoint when you're a coach coming in, it's always the hardest. First year, there's excitement. You kind of perform above your head usually, and then year two is the reality sets in when you're not super talented or you don't have all the working pieces. And then year 3 and 4, you can tell if you're doing it right because the progress is there for sure.
That's what we called it, our terrible twos. We were like, will we ever see the light of day? We don't know.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you move from playing in the collegiate ranks and you go to, which I think is such a unique opportunity, Athletes Unlimited, which we'll put a link down below in the description of the podcast. A unique concept. And I don't think a lot of people really understand. It's a professional league for softball, also has volleyball and I think maybe something else now too, but with softball, pardon?
Basketball and lacrosse.
Oh wow! So I mean, it continues to grow. Tell me, what is Athletes Unlimited really like? Because it's not like Major League Baseball. It's not like the NFL. It's very unique in its own right.
Yeah, it's a very all-star type untraditional format to where you come in and it takes place in Rosemont, and it will expand to be more of a city-backed league here in the next few years. And really the way it's been the first 5 years in its existence is where you have your field. It was the old Chicago Bandits field in Rosemont, Illinois. You've got 60 players that come in. They make up 4 teams, 15 players each. And essentially everything you do has a point value attached to it. And a lot of people would think that the league would kind of encourage players to be very selfish, but the most points you get are out of team wins. So it's very hard to be very selfish in the league, but it's player led. We don't have coaches. We have facilitators. And so you play 15 games in a season, but really every week for 5 weeks, everything you do, obviously having a point value attached to it, it's all tied to one massive leaderboard, 1 through 60. And so you kind of see your team and yourself moving up and down the leaderboard. It's really hard to not look at the leaderboard, after every single at bat or every single inning, because you're constantly changing. But the top 4 people on the leaderboard at the end of every week become the captains for the next week. So that's kind of how you draft your new team. So a lot of people don't like it because they prefer to be on one team in one city for the whole season and kind of build that camaraderie. But it really forces you to build a camaraderie really fast. And it's cool because you get to play with so many people throughout your 5 weeks there. So I loved it because I came in and obviously I'm playing with women who I grew up watching. So I'm still being a little bit of a fangirl where it's like, I can't believe I'm pitching to this person right now. And then next week they might be my teammate. So I can't throw them too much stuff, but, or your teammate one week might be your competitor the next week. So it's a really cool league. And I always say there hasn't been an environment like that where I go into an environment and I just feel so empowered and confident and surrounded by so many amazing people that I might get 59 different teammates over 5 weeks, which is kind of where an environment you're not really going to see that anywhere else outside of Athletes Unlimited. So I personally love it. It's been great.
It's a great concept. I remember back in 2020, I had a chance on the first version of Just a Cup to interview Victoria Hayward. And, she was just ranting and raving about it. And, we had some other, softball guests, Kaylee Rafter and Daniel Lori Locke. And it was fun to kind of listen to that kind of go because softball in popularity is like on a straight up stratosphere, like rocket launch. I mean, the ratings that ESPN have are out of control. I mean, it's impressive. So it's interesting that Athletes Unlimited is really the show, but there's not like a Major League Baseball version where there is cities. Why do you think that is? Why is it kind of in the dark ages of women's sports from that standpoint?
Yeah, and this is really just an ongoing topic of discussion, and there's multiple professional softball leagues, which at the end of the day, and I think the players would agree, there needs to be one league. in order for the MLB to ever even think about backing a league, such as the NBA did with the WNBA. And so we actually had a Zoom call with Billie Jean King a few weeks ago, and she was just saying, like, you can do this. Like, we just did this with women's hockey. Like, you just got to put your foot down, and you might not ever get to experience it in your lifetime. And she was saying, I hope I get to experience it in my lifetime, but it is possible. It can be done. And shortly after that, Athletes Unlimited actually announced they were going to more of a traditional city-backed league. So I think it's just going to be everyone putting their pride aside and forming one league and creating a lot more opportunities for every player, because I don't think the MLB would choose who to back. I think we have to kind of make ourselves known and consistent and solid. I think that's exactly what Athletes Unlimited is aiming to do. So hopefully in the next 3 to 5 years, there becomes one league and this becomes something that women can do full time. Because, a few of my teammates are mothers. A few of my teammates are coaches. And, I might be in the more of minority to where I have a 9 to 5 and I also come and play, professional softball while I still can't. But I'm also in a weird position where, because the league doesn't travel, I can also do my 9 to 5. So when the league does expand, I might have to step away just because I do love my 9 to 5 so much. But it's growing insane, and I think it's not a secret to anyone. Like you said, OKC packs out every year. It's back in the Olympics, so I think it's just a matter of time before it really becomes something similar to the MLB. And maybe even having the same cities where softball's played, where the MLB cities are. So I don't know. There's a lot of room for growth. I'm excited to see where the sport goes, but I know it's on the right trajectory for sure.
We're going to talk about the 9 to 5 in a little bit because that's a super interesting topic. But when you start looking at the leagues right now, the WNBA took a while, and it was great that it was backed by the NBA because, hey, I was a part of the start of the Puma America Track League, and it is rough when you are starting a league from scratch or just even building, because you got to build a fan base. You got to build sponsorships, and that's what pays the bills. The television deals. You guys have been on. I've watched it on ESPN Plus, last year, which was exciting. Just because I'm such a sports junkie. My wife laughs at me, I think, some of the times because I'm like watching random stuff. But softball, it's kind of like a pastime. You enjoy, you go out there. Oklahoma City, they're going to have the Olympics in Oklahoma City instead of LA, which speaks volumes of Oklahoma City as a sports town. But, why do you think there's a sudden rise in women's sports at the professional level?
I just think that college has developed so much with the attention it's getting, the resources it has. And you see the ratings. I think the past 3 years they've been higher than the baseball College World Series the past 3 years. So I think it's finally getting the attention it deserves. And I definitely think it being a quick game. A lot of people have the attention span to sit down and watch as opposed to a 4-hour baseball game. But going into the pro space, I think it's just, these co-founders in these leagues, and you have, John Patricoff and Jonathan Soros starting Athletes Unlimited. They knew it wasn't going to be a profitable league for the first however many years, but they started it the right way. They started it with the Nike deal, the ESPN deal, and that's where you're going to get the most eyes on you when you have the ESPN Plus contract and you treat these professional athletes like professional athletes. I think that's really where they get bought in and they realize this isn't a one and done for me. This is something where I want to have children and I want to come back because I have the resources that I need. And now just having a draft, I think that's been a lot of exciting things coming out of college to where my name might get called. That's something that's super exciting. And so I think it's mimicking what a lot of other sports are doing. But I think that, the owners of Athletes Unlimited really started it the right way. And I always show up and I'm like, wow, we're going to be on ESPN tonight. Like, that's pretty cool. Or, hey, my buddy just sent me a video of me pitching in a sports bar. Like, that's pretty cool. We're on ESPN. So I just knowing that, we're given the right resources. So while we might not be profitable for a few years, I think it will eventually get to where, they want it to go.
No, when you say, somebody's, sending you a snapshot from, them watching in a sports bar, I think this might be every athlete's dream that, hey, you're out there in public and people can watch you kind of wherever it might be. You know what I mean? Which is pretty
100%. Absolutely.